Hey everyone, welcome back into the Abyss. I am Rob Adams, and today we are moving right forward to 1991. Um, like I said before, I think I said it yesterday, as a matter of fact, that I am going to absolutely forget movies. And when I was putting my pile together for today, I found two right away that I missed from yesterday. So I'm actually going to start with those. The first one is Taking Care of Business, Jim Belushi, Charles Grodin. Jim Belushi breaks out of prison so he can go see the World Series. Angels versus Cubs. He's a Cubs fan. We know it's a movie and fictitious because the Angels are playing the Cubs in the World Series. Ridiculous. Anyways, um, he kind of cons his way into Charles Grodin's life after he finds his file of facts at the airport and kind of cons his way throughout the situation with advertising and coming up with silly ideas and stuff like that, and kind of just not realizing that he is making these decisions as he's kind of having fun. The other one is another con man movie starring Dana Carvey, Opportunity Knocks. He ends up, working his way into this family to con them, but ends up falling in love with the daughter and the family falls in love with him, of course. And it's just a good, fun, romantic comedy. So, two good comedies, two kind of con man movies, has some good humor and some good storylines, and two from 1990 that I missed that I wanted to show you. All right, moving forward. First one from 1991 that I want to show you guys is JFK. Um, it is star-studded: Tommy Lee Jones, Kevin Costner, Joe Pesci, Sissy Spacek. Gary Oldman plays uh, Lee Harvey Oswald. There's just a lot of people in this movie, and it kind of tells the story from the angle that Oswald not necessarily was the shooter, that it was more of the conspiracy, which I really enjoy because I truly believe that it was a conspiracy. I've been to Dealey Plaza. I've stood up at the school book depository window. I've also stood behind the grassy knoll fence, and it's easy to know where those shots came from. And this movie kind of carries it. It's really long, but it is a good movie to watch beyond the history that we are taught about how these events played out. So it's a must watch from the standpoint of just the history, but just then when you have the whole cast, it makes it even a better film. So it's one to definitely to check out. Next up is a Matt Dillon movie, also with Sean Young, Kiss Before Dying. This is a remake. Robert Wagner did the original one many years ago. However, it's different than the original, which is kind of like what we talked about with the Fly remake and stuff. I don't mind remakes as long as they're different and they kind of have their own originality. I don't like when they're direct remakes, and this is one of those ones where it kind of has its own kind of flavor to it. And like I said, I was a big Matt Dillon fan in the day, and this is another one that he does an amazing job in. Next up is necessarily the greatest movie, um, but it's a cool story. It's the story of Lucky Luciano and Meyer Lansky, played by Patrick Dempsey, and then Lucky Luciano is played by Christian Slater, and Chris Penn is in it, and it basically tells the story of the rise of Lucky Luciano in the mob world, and playing the two mob bosses against each other as he's trying to leverage them on his way to the top. So from the standpoint of a mob movie and a story that is this factually true to as much as a movie can do that, it's kind of fun. The acting's okay. It's good enough to be able to watch and enjoy the film, but it's a pretty good story. All right. Next up is Necessary Roughness. Scott Bakula, Kathy Ireland, Sinbad, Jason Bateman. A good comedy sports movie. Hector Elizondo is another actor that we talk a ton about. That he is always doing consistently Hector Elizondo, but you wouldn't even know him if you stood next to him in the grocery store. He would look familiar, but you would think you know him as a friend, not necessarily as an actor. Just goes about his business. He plays the head football coach in this, and it's a good, fun story. This is where Rob Schneider came up with his bit, fumblerooski, fumbleaya, and ended up using it in other things in Saturday Night Live, etc. But that came from this, and like I said, it's a fun sports movie if you like these kinds of things. Next up, one of the things that I know you're going to say in the comments section, what about Father of the Bride? What about Point Break? These are movies that I own and I like, but you guys know them and you like them. So there's no reason when I have a stack of movies that I can talk about that maybe you don't know, rather than talk about something you guys do know. Now, this is one that you guys do know, Hook. But the only reason I'm pointing it out is because I love when they get creative with movies. And this is a creative movie because it's not the Peter Pan story, it's the post Peter Pan story. He's an adult now, he has kids, he's forgotten who he is. And Tinkerbell, played by Julia Roberts, has to teach Peter Pan, who's played by Robin Williams, that he is Peter Pan. All the while, you have Dustin Hoffman as Hook, which is phenomenal. And it's a good, fictitious sequel in a sense to Peter Pan, and that's why I want to point it out because it is a good, fun movie. Next up, Danny DeVito, you know, counting people out of his money or out of their money. It's called Other People's Money. It's a fun DeVito movie, and what I love about DeVito is, you know, we always talk about actors that the movie tells you what you're watching. The movie tells you what you're supposed to watch. Danny DeVito is this little guy, and 90% in the movies, they make him like this con man or this tough guy or this, smart, conniving guy. And so we lose sense of his size because movies make him ginormous and make his personality ginormous and make his being ginormous. And it goes to show you that if you believe and you do your job, the movie will do the rest. And Danny DeVito is one of those actors that just is larger than life for a small guy. And this is just another one of those movies along those lines that he's really, really good in. Next up is another one called King Ralph, another kind of fun comedy. John Goodman. He finds out that he's part of a royal line. He lives in, I believe, New Jersey, and is told that he is the next in line for the throne. So he comes over from the United States to Britain and kind of turns their hierarchy upside down, which, of course, if you know me and I know, and you know how ridiculous I think the hierarchy is, I really enjoy this film. When you take an American and you put the crown on him, the Brits ain't going to be happy, and they're not. And it's a fun comedy. He does an amazing job. John Goodman being John Goodman. Doesn't matter if it's Big Lebowski. It doesn't matter if he's Sully, in Monsters, Inc. He is John Goodman, and he's terrific, and it's a good, fun comedy. Another kind of romantic comedy, Doc Hollywood, Michael J. Fox. And we talked about this the other day. We were talking about Secret of My Success. After Back to the Future, and Family Ties, it really kind of made him like a household name, but also a household darling. He's very, very likable. He's very, very charming. He's very, very endearing. And, starting with Secret of My Success, he started doing these kind of romantic comedies and fun movies. And Doc Hollywood is another one of those movies. And we'll talk about others as we go the next few years. There's several coming up that he did that are just really good, fun movies. And real quick, it's funny. Years ago, we did scripts from this movie, and it was awful. If you just go by the straight dialogue, it's terrible. But that shows you, when you put the ingredients of the actors and the cohesiveness and the relationships, that they really carry the movie, and the lines follow along, because the lines by themselves, not good. But this is a really good, fun movie. All right, another comedy which I love. What About Bob? It's all about Richard Dreyfuss and Bill Murray. And what do we say? It's how actors play off each other, and the way that they play off each other, and the way that Bill Murray is just, as Bob, this lighthearted, loving guy who's just, neurotic. And then you have the doctor, who's Richard Dreyfuss, who's trying to keep it business, as the straight guy, and them going back and forth. It is a lot of fun. Then you add the kids and the rest of Richard Dreyfuss's family, and it just makes for a great, light, fun comedy. And you know what? We use these lines all the time when it comes to our careers that they talk about in this movie: baby steps, baby steps, baby steps, baby steps. And you'll know more of what I'm talking about once you see What About Bob. Kind of switching gears, another remake it was a Robert Mitchum film, but this is a Scorsese De Niro film, Cape Fear. Nick Nolte, Jessica Lange. Cast is phenomenal. There's a great scene with him and Juliette Lewis, in the auditorium at the school, or I think it's the theater, and as many of you know, it's unscripted. It was just the way it went, and it's kind of intense the way that De Niro behaves with her and the way that she goes with it, and it creates such a strong, real moment because it wasn't, rehearsed. It wasn't blocked. It was the way it played out, and there's a lot of that kind of stuff in these type of movies where you just get a real feel and a real for the terror and the creepiness and all the stuff that goes with it. I do recommend watching the one with Robert Mitchum. It's a really good film. A little bit different once again at the end and stuff like that, and that's why they're not direct reflections of each other, but still a really really strong film. All right, next up, a movie I saw a ton in the theaters when it came out. I was in college, and I think my buddies and I went to 2 or 3 times seeing this. And I actually remember like getting out of the theater like at 2 in the morning because it's a pretty long movie, and that's The Doors. I don't necessarily love it as much today as I did back then. I was really, really into The Doors, and I still really like The Doors, and I still really listen to them. But back then I was really in that period of listening to them. So this movie came out the right time for me. The cast is great. Meg Ryan as Pam. Val Kilmer as Jim Morrison, and the rest. They all just do such a great job. Kevin Dillon learned how to play drums from the real John Densmore, and brings in that realism of really playing the songs, and there is a lot of continuity to them as the actors playing in the band, and I love that kind of stuff. I love the realism. I love when the actors are doing the stuff themselves, playing the drums, guitar, keyboards, singing, etc. Even though a lot of it's lip syncing, but still doing their part. And Val Kilmer had Morrison down from the movements to the standing to the speech patterns, etc. And to me, looking at it now, it's the acting that really carries this film. Looking at it back then was the story for me because of my love for the Doors at the time. So a really, really strong movie, worth a watch, but especially for the actors and the realism. Next up is one we all know. Got to talk about it. Silence of the Lambs. I do have the Criterion up there, but this was more accessible. Anyways, we know the story. I actually like Manhunter better, but you can't go wrong with the acting. Scott Glenn, Jodie Foster, and especially Anthony Hopkins. That's what this movie's all about. Great story, great movie, but Anthony Hopkins as Hannibal Lecter, hits the home run. All right, down to our last 2. My first animated is Beauty and the Beast. And I actually saw the original Broadway cast on stage do this before I actually saw the animated, and they were electrifying. They were amazing. It's just a great story, and the animated is really good as well. And this is probably one of my top 5 favorite Disney films. Like I said, it's a great story. The characters are great, and to see them come alive on Broadway made it even more special. I didn't see him on Broadway. I saw the original Broadway cast on stage. Same idea, but you know what I meant. Anyways, my number 1 for 1991, City Slickers. And, Daniel Stern, Bruno Kirby, and Billy Crystal, their continuity, and they're playing off each other, and their energy as their friends is amazing. Excuse me. And then you add Jack Palance into it, and it's just great. Helen Slater's in it. She's terrific, There's a lot of great actors in it. David Paymer, another guy that you've seen a million times. You look him up right now, David Paymer, and then you're like, oh yeah, I know that guy. Just done a million stuff. He's great. He's one of the Ice Cream Brothers in it. But anyways, once again, there's some good stuff. When he gives birth to the calf, he really did that in that shot. Whenever you can get realism, it's amazing. And probably one of the best opening scenes in film history, where it opens up with them running with the bulls. It's phenomenal. It's hysterical. It gets the film going off on the right foot, and the rest is history. It's just a really, really good, fun comedy, original story, great acting, and is my number 1 for 1991. Okay. Real quick on the music side, probably the biggest album to come out in 91 is Metallica's Black album, and as you see, it's black. There is a little bit of logos in there, but you're not going to be able to see it on here with the reflection and such. I was lucky back in the day. I had a friend who worked at Tower Records, and music would usually get into the store Saturday or Sunday, but they wouldn't release it until Tuesdays back in the day. but with my connection, I was able to get some of these things a day or two early and listen to them, which was pretty cool. This was one of them, coming off Injustice for All, my favorite Metallica album. I really look forward to this. And, it's a good album. It's really, really popular. Nowadays, I barely listen to it. Not a huge fan. Not nearly what Metallica was to me. Those first four albums were phenomenal. Still a good album, a good rocker. A lot of you guys know it. Probably, like I said, the most popular in '91. But and so I had to pop. I had to. I was gonna say pop it out, but I had to bring it out and show it to you guys. Another one that's huge in 1991 is U2's Achtung Baby. And this is one of those ones that was okay when I first heard it. But as I started listening to it more and more and more, I've really, really enjoyed it. It actually came out when I was in Europe. And I remember at one of the record stores in Munich, they had the car right out front, the U2 car. I think it's somewhere on the cover here. And that was part of the publicity of the album. And so it was really, really huge. But songs like The Fly, One, Zoo Station, even better than The Real Thing, Until the End of the World, Who's Gonna Ride Your Wild Horses, which is a great U2 song. It's just, like I said, it's grown on me over the years, and I really, really like this album a lot more today than I did in 1991, and I appreciate it a lot more. Down to my last two on the album side, Rush, Roll the Bones. Saw them 3 times on this tour. I think twice at Irvine and once at the Forum, or maybe it was twice at the Forum and once at Irvine. But anyways, a really, really good album. Opens up a dreamline, goes into bravado. The title track, Roll the Bones, is great. Where's My Thing, an unbelievable instrumental. Ghost of a Chance is a phenomenal song. This is just a really, really strong record. And like I said, my biggest memories of this record is going and seeing them 3 times on this tour. But another, great Rush album. But number 1 for 1991 is Sabatage's Streets, a rock opera. Another one that I saw and listened to when I was in Europe. It is really, really strong. And what you're going to start to hear in their music is this is a story. It's a rock opera. And it's about a guy who was a drug dealer who breaks out of that and becomes a rock star. And then, at the height of his rock stardom, things go wrong and he kind of falls backwards into his drug addiction. And then his friend gets killed in a fight about money that's owed from him. And he goes, backwards and trying to understand how he got to where he got to, and then trying to find some kind of light at the end of the tunnel. It's a great story, but the songs are phenomenal. One song after another is just phenomenal. It's just a great story. It's a great album, and you're going to hear a little bit of the band that spins off of this band, which we are not going to talk about yet, as the years go on. But this is really, going in that direction. You can start hearing it at points, but this is just a phenomenal rock album. I wouldn't even say heavy metal. I mean, there's some heavy metal songs, but there's a lot of piano. There's a lot of, I wouldn't even say ballads, slower songs, but just a really good, solid, hard rock, heavy metal album, and I really recommend it. This is the last album where John Oliva is on vocals. And his brother Chris is, just like I've said in other episodes, an amazing guitar player, and just listening to him play is phenomenal. Johnny Lee Middleton on bass, and then Steve Kill drums, Wackholz on the drums. Just a great solid band and a great solid album, and at the height of Sabotage. It's just really good. And so even though I love these other albums, this was number 1 for 1991. So there you have it. Savatage, Streets, a rock opera, and City Slickers. Those are my number 1s for 1991. Hope you enjoyed it. Once again, leave your comments. I'm always seeing Cora leaving her comments. I need others to leave their comments. I want to see some lists. I want to see what you guys are listening to. I want to see what you guys are watching. All right? And if you haven't subscribed, hit that button, and I'll see you tomorrow.